Hey, this is Tuan Aditya from LightHaven. A couple of weeks ago on our Instagram channel, I had uploaded a video about switching grips with the stick, with a single stick. And I had got actually quite a few responses and questions based on that video. I thought today I would make a proper sort of video explaining a couple of ways of going around it, couple of ways of getting comfortable with the idea of switching sticks as well. Um, I shouldn't have to say this, but I am going to say this. This is a stick-based drill. Yes, the first way that we're going to work on can be used for bladed weapons also, but um, it's still primarily a stick-based drill. It's not a blade-based drill. We are going to be at points maneuvering the stick in a way which to do with the blade would be suicidal. I'm going to be sharing with you guys three different ways of switching sticks. I'm just going through the mechanics and the pros and cons, perhaps. So please watch the entire video to get all three of them. Before we begin, though, it would mean a lot if you would subscribe to the channel. At the end of the video, if you like what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share the video. If you have anything to add to the discussion, if you have another way of switching grips, if you have certain preferences, leave that in the comments down below. If you have requests for future videos or questions, please also leave that in the comments down below. All these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot. To begin with, you should be comfortable in this, just this. You should be able to have that much. You should be able to have that much tactile control that you can just grab, that you can grab the stick, and that you are used to switching hands. This really helps with that. So this is the first thing. This is the most simple. You can hold it from the middle, although I do suggest holding it from the bottom. This is the easiest thing you can do just off the bat. Just do this whenever you have time. Just throw this, toss the stick from one end, from one hand to the other. That's the easiest way. But that's not one of the drills I'm going to share with you. It's just something that you can consistently practice wherever you are. So, so one of the problems that people have, or perhaps the easiest way to solve one of the problems, is to position or set the position for the switching of the sticks. So the live hand has a lot to do with, obviously, with switching grips. Now, in the first way, we are going to focus on switching grips, switching the stick to the other hand only when it's on this side. I'm not going to try and reach across here to switch. I'm going to switch when the stick comes to this side. Now you have two major positions where this can happen. It can happen by a hip, it can happen by a shoulder, and it really depends on what it is that you're trying to do. The easiest way to go about it, and this is the way that also translates to a sword, especially a lot of the guntings, a lot of the ginuntings that we have that sort of hand guard. So being really comfortable in switching, you have to be will really help you switch a blade, because you can't just like immediately grab something and be very sort of careless about it. You have to be very careful, very methodical about the way you change grips if you want this to translate to a sword. And having a fixed loading position for switching grips is going to really help you with that. So the first one is simple. I'm going to make sure my hand is in the center of my chest. It's going to be center of my chest. I'm going to do a simple angle one. It's going to come across to the shoulder. Now, once it comes across to the shoulder is when I'm going to switch my grips. I am not going to try and switch grip anywhere in the middle. I'm going to let it come to my shoulder, rest on my shoulder, and that's when I'm going to switch grips. The way I'm thinking about switching grips is I'm thinking of replacing this hand with this hand. I'm not just trying to grab the stick anywhere, because again, like I said, this particular way of switching will also translate to the blade, and you have to be uber careful about what you do with the blade. So I want to replace this hand with this hand. So I'm going to be really careful about that. I'm going to wait for it. I'm going to rest it on my shoulder. I'm going to come up with my thumb right here at the top of my other hand. I'm going to touch with my thumb and then replace. Let it come to my shoulder, touch with my thumb and replace. Come to my shoulder, touch with my thumb and replace. Now this ensures that I no longer need to look at what I'm doing with my hand. If my right hand can find my left hand, I don't need my eyes to do this. I don't need my eyes to clap. If my right hand can find my left hand, I can replace. And that's really important in any of the switching techniques, for lack of a better word, we're going to do. You don't have the luxury of looking at where your stick or weapon is. You have to be able to switch without looking. And if you have 2 points of contact. One is your shoulders. You know where the stick is. You know where the sword is. It's not just floating around in space. You know where the sword is. You can feel it on your shoulder. Number two is take one hand, find the other hand, get this part of my thumb where my thumb meets my palm to touch the top of my other hand, and then I switch. Now I no longer need to be looking at my stick in order to switch. You can also do this from the hip. However, first get comfortable with this shoulder switch, then go to the hip. The hip is a similar way, except this time instead of my hand being here, my hand is going to come here. I'm going to again use where my thumb meets my palm to almost catch the top of my other hand. And that's how I'm going to switch. It's going to come, my other hand's going to be here waiting for my stick or my sword to come. You need to be very precise. I don't want this out here hanging about where it can hit the blade or hit the stick or whatever. I want it stuck to my hip. If you have done any sort of like Sparai Daga work, you know that this is also a major position where we load our knife. So you should be comfortable with this position for your life hand and this position for your life hand. So I'm swinging the stick, I'm bringing top of my fist to where my thumb meets my palm, and I'm replacing one arm with the other arm. So if I'm just flowing and I want to switch grips, I can switch grips pretty seamlessly without having to look at what my stick is doing, without having to track my stick with my eyes. I can just switch, whether it's from my hip or my shoulder. It's pretty easy for me to switch, and you don't really lose any time. It's quite seamless. But I'm using either my shoulder or my hip as the point where I switch. The next two are going to primarily be um, uh, for a stick. You cannot really do this with the sword, at least unless you really want to run the risk of getting cut. Um, the first one is basically you're gonna anyway you can do this with a twirl inside, or you can just drop that same stick under the same armpit. So if my stick is in my right hand, I'm just gonna bring it under my right armpit and then switch. Bring this out, bring it under my left armpit, bring it out, right armpit, left armpit, switch hands, out, right armpit, switch hands. Even in this, you want to try and make sure that you are replacing, that you are not going, if this is the length of my punyo, my left hand, I don't want it that when I switch, now my stick has become shorter or bigger. I want to maintain that same length of the stick, same length of the punyo. And an easy way of doing that again is use this C, find the top of your fist and use that point as a place to switch. Instead of me loading back to my shoulder, in whichever strike I am, coming back here, I can find my armpit. And the way to do that, I'm going to look to bend my wrist in, almost like a Vitic over here, and tuck it under the armpit. I also don't want this to be loose because when I'm switching grips, I don't want my stick to drop. So I want to clip it under my armpit. And even when I'm clipping under my armpit, I want to replace. I don't want to let go suddenly, just in case it falls out. So if I can, I want to replace and not let go. I'm moving, switch. I'm coming out. Also on your exit from this, you can have a strike as I'm coming out from here. The last basic way I'm going to show you is when we go across. So The first one was a basic switch across. So I'm going to the side that I'm going to so that the hand that's going to hold the weapon is in. This was same side. So I'm switching on my weapon side. Now we're going to do one more switch on the non-weapon side, or the side that's going to hold the weapon. Now, just off the bat, I'm going to say this. This is my least favorite way of switching weapons, because it it helps to sort of get you comfortable with the weapon. It helps to sort of build a few attributes. But in terms of fluidity, fighting, it's sort of there's a little bit of a lack of control. It's more flashy than normally what I like. It's just not my favorite way. But yes, it does. It does help you sort of work your way up to other fancy or other ways of switching the stick, which is why I selected this one as the third one that we're gonna do out of the I don't know how many ways of switching sticks that you may have. And this one, it's similar to sort of almost like nunchucks. You're gonna go across, except this time instead of going just to your waist or just to your shoulder, you're gonna go under your armpit and load the stick behind up here. Reach across behind, grab the stick, come back again under the armpit. So not just a medium load by your hip, not a shoulder load or cross load on your shoulder. It's going to be almost under your armpit, so you can reach behind, grab it, come back, reach behind, grab it, come back, reach behind, grab it, come back. Now the deeper you are, the closer you are to the armpit, the more stick you have to grab. The only issue is that it's a little bit hard for you to be very precise as to the length of the stick. In the other two ways, I can control the length of the stick to a very high degree, because I can almost guarantee that I'm replacing my hand by using what I showed you. In this, you can't really do that. In this, depending on how deep, whether you've gone here, whether you've gone here, how much of the stick is sticking out, how much flexibility you have in your shoulders, the length of your stick, a bunch of factors that are going to determine where you come out holding the stick. So if you can see right now, I have almost 5 or 6 finger tip sizes. I don't know what you call them. Finger length, breadth, whatever, away between my hand and the punyo. Now when I switch, I've come out with less than that. There are other variations, but they sort of stem from this one. You can enter this from anything that's coming from the forehand to the backhand side. So it can be a florete in here, a vitic to an angle one. It can be a vertical strike. It can even be a reverse diagonal in a weird way that comes to your lats. Come grab, hit, bring it back, switch, come back. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you have anything to add to the discussion, leave that in the comments down below. If you have any questions or requests for future videos, please also leave that in the comments down below. All of these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot, especially in this crazy pandemic time in India, where not doing so good right now. So your support means a lot. Our online classes are up and running. Our residential program is up and running. So to train with us through either of them, email us the link I'm going to leave down below. Thank you so much for watching and for all of your support. See you in the next video.